I've always followed sport. So I've
Bill's character.
been a part of sport. Ambition and self-awareness rarely converge.
Parents taught you the power of learning how to fail, which I thought was a great lesson.
So everything, and don't yell at people who can't talk back, or don't yell at people just because you have a designation, or you're more powerful if you have lesser and lesser reasons to execute that power. But I think people who are kind are generally kind.
Compelled to borrow 5 books in one go, read them, repeat the cycle, and then when they could afford to get pocket money as they grew a little bit older, spend every single penny, forced to spend every single penny on reading and buying more books. Anantha Padmanabhan's early life in Madras is testament to how the universe actually carries you to your destiny if only you surrender completely. Forced to learn Hindi, Tamil, physics, go through the entire grind to finally find a language he loves, English, to read as many books as you can possibly read in one lifetime, to only realize that you have, and I think I can say this very safely knowing him, has been able to master reading oneself. Ananth Padmanabhan, who also happens to be one of the most powerful CEO for HarperCollins Publishers India and the co-chair with Publishing Committee with Vicky. We're honored to have him today with those designations and the man behind all of it because of the unique energy that he brings to any room that he walks into or joins virtually. He is warm, filled with wisdom, and has a very unique sense of wonder. On the Creating Kinder Content podcast with me, your host, Mallika Bajaj, Ananth Padmanabhan. Thank you so much for joining us. And without any further ado, can I please request you to introduce yourself to my audience in 3 words that firstly you think best describe you to begin with?
Firstly, thank you for having me. And this is unusual because when I thought about, thinking about your question, it's one of those things you don't ask. You rarely know what people think of you in terms of how they see you. But I think what I would like to be seen as, and I know it's the name of your content. So definitely kind, um, patient. Some people may not agree. So I think kind, patient, and in some sense also relentless because I don't give up.
Really good choices. I see why you're picking them up for yourselves because you are on the Creating Kind of Content podcast for a reason. But this is about you. So these questions, these words, were you given these words as a child when you were growing up, or something that the environment that you were around in? Someone said you need to be kind, you need to learn how to be patient, or are these words that you've discovered about yourself on your journey?
No, I think kindness is both from family, the benefit of growing up with friends, growing up in a good schooling environment, and both having and picking the right people to get inspiration from. And most of all, as a home where I always grew up with dogs, um, I've had no other option but to constantly learn from how important and easy it is to be simple and in the moment, find that daily joy, devoid of baggage. I mean, my Labrador can wipe the slate clean every 15 seconds. He has absolutely no idea that I just yelled at him, right? And 10 minutes later, he's willing to play again. So he's not carrying baggage. So he's a constant reminder of how we can be better when we interact with human beings ourselves. So growing up with that kind of environment meant that you're definitely kinder, even if you're not kinder, because kindness is interpretative. Your kindness to one need not necessarily be the kindness that other people are expecting or are setting the standard for, but you're definitely less cruel. Uh, you're less you're a lot more patient,
Yeah.
and you're a lot more open to someone else, and you're not thinking about yourself all the time.
I love that. And I think in my intro, like I've mentioned, there is a certain sense of warmth, wisdom, and wonder you bring in with your unique energy. And I think I'm already beginning to soak it in. So this is good. I'm going to keep it there. Anand, we're going to put this out there because you put this out there. And I think I'm very grateful for the fact that you shared the fact that you had failed when you were in the 10th grade.
Yeah,
Now, when I saw
high school, 12th standard. Yes.
Yeah. And in that particular moment, you also finished that sentence with saying your parents taught you the power of learning how to fail, which I thought was a great lesson. For people who are watching, would you be kind enough to share? Because I mean, I think it's the fact that we've put such negative connotations to failure. But for me personally, I feel like it's like standing under a popper. I think that's what life has taught me, like a party popper. And the moment you fail, it falls on you and you feel like, oh my God, who's going to clean the mess? But you later realize that you don't even realize the kind of colors that exist, and now you know them, so now you can pick them up and start using them to turn to like a beautiful painting canvas. So for me, failure feels like that. It's probably what my parents have taught me. What has failure taught you? And for everyone who's watching, what do you want to tell them?
I think, yeah, that was the first big moment. First big moment when literally in the school when they put out results and they do printouts and they put it on a notice board and your name is not there, and then you start to realize. And obviously, this is me speaking um, 35 years later.
Yeah.
So one must allow me the room for these 35 years of wisdom to relook at that moment, maybe slightly differently in a more mature fashion than I was when I was a 16-year-old,
Yeah.
having discovered that I didn't crack it, and the teachers hesitating to tell me the truth. So now I had to go to the state board office and find out what the number was and the fact that I didn't clear that paper. So it was a combination of both my parents saying that this is not the end of the world, and my father was a banker, mom was a homemaker, but they were not saying that, and my elder brother was already pursuing law, and I have a younger brother in school. So it was not like we were a non-competitive uh, environment. But if you're talking about the 90s, uh, aspirations were different. What parents wanted for you was different. It was still just very good education, and when everybody in your class was going to become an engineer or a doctor, and you didn't know what your next moment was going to be and whether you made the right choice or not, they just gave me that confidence. That one is that, to use contemporary language, is that the home is a safe space where you're not going to be judged because you missed it, right? That's how homes are meant to be. A, B, what are the aspirations and what are the goals you set for your children? I mean, what is it that you think I'm going to tell them are important to achieve? And delinking professional or academic achievement from your ability to become wealthy, or don't connect uh, educational achievement to academic achievement to corporate achievement to your ability to earn more money. You can always earn more money by doing none of these.
Yeah.
And so what are these important markers of what is important in life? And then I had the benefit of, I think in my instance, uh, friendships. You go to a class with 75 people, and then when this happens, literally 72 disappear and don't talk to you again. And 3 people stay in touch with you, and they are the best friends, and they're still friends of mine.
Ah,
And then they teach you what is important in life.
I love that. I love that because I mean, I've briefly like all the research that has led me up to also, apart from the fact that I've met you, and also the fact that I've seen a lot of your work, I'm beginning to sort of also see the fact that there is so much surrender, the fact that you want to get up, and the fact that the universe is actually carrying you to your destiny. Like through these lessons, as long as you're willing to learn, it finds you where you need to be. And I think you're a classic example for it. Is that safe to say, or am I just assuming?
Yes and no. Like I said, it's your view of what you've learned. I have
Yeah.
zero control on what you think of this. I cannot alter it
No,
either. I
you can
cannot.
deny it. You can say it was,
Sure, sure,
yeah,
sure,
yeah. This is my view on your life. You should 100% have the ownership.
sure, sure, sure,
Deny
sure.
it. But I think, like, from where I'm seeing it, like, like sometimes, like, you've been really honest about the failure. I think a lot of us have not been taught also how to be honest about that. So we kind of keep like using that as a shame bag or carrying it around or guilty about it or just sad about failing. I don't think we're taught how to get up after failure. It's not something that is written in books. Now it is, but not in school books. And so I think, yeah, like all the information that you've shared,
And I
important.
think one another thing I should jump in here though. I've always followed sport.
Hmm.
So
Builds character.
been a part of sport
Yeah.
in various forms. Every Indian would have played cricket, one would say, assuming. But motorsport, a big fan of motorsport and stuff like that. So I think the thing that I always learned about sport, especially high performance, high speed motorsport, is that you make decisions in the blink of an eye. You
Yeah.
know, you're in the wall, and a racing incident can kill you. And being a driver of a very good car, you have to be a highly qualified driver matched with a highly qualified engineering team. And you have to do that, let us say, an average of 50 times every race. And then you have to do it for 20 races in the year before you become a world champion. You literally can't repeat last lap's mistake because that mistake will cost you. There is no time to mourn about mistakes. You have to make it up before if you want to get to the front row. So sport, I think, and every sport, even high performance sport like being in the Indian men's or women's cricket team, is you can't rest on your
Yeah.
laurels, as it were. You can win the semi-final and miss the final in the last ball. So I think sport, in a way, teaches you that. And the balancing factor also is going back to what we how you pick yourself. And I say this to a lot of people: is please develop a hobby. Your academic qualification or your career success cannot define you. There are goals you can set for yourself by being able to write better or take a picture better or sing better. And those have nothing to do with the external world. You can learn to push yourself by doing that, even for fun. You don't have to compete.
Yeah.
But
Love.
when you balance this, I think then there's a lesser chance of dependence on a public validation and more chance of finding happiness because you're good at something. It doesn't matter what the rest of the world thinks.
You know how to read yourself.
Huh.
Great. Now, on those pearls of wisdom, see, you're kind of like actually throwing me off because I'm like, don't stop. This is really good, but I have to keep the flow going. But growing up, Anant, can you please share with us? You know how sometimes we always have that one moment where we sort of either doubt ourselves or like don't know ourselves well enough, and then just an act of kindness comes to us. It could be anyone that just sort of transforms how we feel, and then we're like, yeah, this is how I want everyone else to feel around me. Do you remember something like that, or is there anything that you'd like to share with us?
No, that's a big question.
Yeah,
Big question.
you can take your time.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'll tell you. I'll tell you from. I don't know. Well, I could say that. I could say that when I walked in for a job at 17 and somebody taking a punt on me and saying, yes, I think you can do it. Because when, at 17, and I've said this before too, I was interviewed 4 times. And because I lived far away from where the workplace was, I used to take a bus and go there. No mobile phones in 92. You would call and make an appointment. It was an active workspace. So the person who I acknowledged, my lifelong teacher, mentor, when he made me come 4 times, and after I got the job and I asked him, but why did you make me come 4 times? He said, no, I knew that summer internship, I'm going to have you on board when we first met. I just wanted to make sure that you really wanted to do this. That is not a whim. And that's why I asked you to come 4 times. And I thought that was a very important lifelong lesson, is that even when we make our decisions, we need to be sure that we're getting into those decisions. Uh, you have the choice of exiting a decision you made, always, always. But one assumes that the certain concentration went into making a decision. And when you do, own it, uh, always. And that makes a very, very important aspect in everything we do. Uh,
I love that. As a leader now having had that lesson, I want to know what is your first instinct, or what is, for people who are now growing into either becoming professionals, or I think our jobs and our opportunities are now very different. So, this commitment fact that you're talking about, that yes, you can choose and you can choose out. But when you opt out, what does that, and there are consequences, right, to this. What is your take on when you have given someone your word, or you've promised that you're doing this, or you've chosen to do something and you've made a commitment, and you walk out of it because you were just what take us through maybe the consequences as someone who's led teams. What is the impact on people who are left behind, or what is it that we should be mindful of, or what is it that we're not even sort of cognizant of?
so it's two things. One is ambition and self-awareness rarely converge.
Yeah.
When they do, it's great. It converges in sport.
Yeah.
You want to do it, and you're really pushing yourself. Uh, in any, even as individuals, we want to be the best, and then we push and push, and we know that the self-awareness tells you what your weaknesses are, what your strengths are, and then you marry it with the right ambition, you're going to get on with it. You need a bit of courage to say, I'm going to stop doing what I used to do because I have to become a different person to be able to get there. In a work environment is a much more transactional, and I would think uh, it's a lot less it's a lot less philosophical as a partnership, right? You are a team. There's a purpose wherever you are, and then the team needs to come together to be able to achieve something. We go ahead and say, okay, I'm up for the job, or somebody says, I think you're the right person for us at this point of time. Can you come and can we do this together, and so on. And then sometimes you discover that uh, I mean, how well can you know somebody if you interview them for 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you discover sometimes as we work with people more, and I was taught this very early, is that motivations are important. Why did you take this up for
Mm.
yourself? And that's a self thing. And then when you work with people, sometimes you realize that it's not the right fit. It could simply mean culture, it could mean baggage, it could mean skill, it could mean pace. Some people are particular, some people are not. It could mean how you're wired. It could also mean the mix of the team. If four of you are launching a rocket and you're looking at a data all the time, that's a different skill set from four of you launching a musician, or taking a band on tour. You need different skill set, different set of people. Sometimes it doesn't come together. So it's the wrong bolt size or whatever. It's also how early you discover that the fit is wrong. So
Yeah.
sometimes I tell to people is that you should have the alacrity to exit if you think it's not the right fit instead of being unhappy in what you're doing. And the onus is also on the leadership that says that if you can see that somebody is unhappy and they have discovered that they're the wrong fit, yet you want to use that as a moment of power to keep telling them they're doing something wrong, then you're wrong. Instead of sitting with them and saying, I think this is not working, it's not working for you as much as it's not working for me. So I'd rather not have you here unhappy when it's not working for you, and find the time and find the place where you can be the best yourself instead of trying to make things work here. And I think that exit is important. So a lot of people who find out that this is not a particular space for them and they leave early, great. Or you should help them make that decision. But we're all human beings. If there's no holding back on. It's
Yeah.
okay. It's okay. Sometimes you fit, sometimes you don't. But when you think you've signed up for something, I might sound archaic, but I would say you'll have to do your best. I was taught this very early. Um, Somebody once told me that if they could find a monkey to train and do my job, they would. Not my job, one job. So what are you bringing to the table that somebody else can't?
Yeah.
No criticism of monkeys. I love monkeys. I'm just saying. It was said in jest, but what I'm saying is if you have signed up for something, give it your best.
Yeah.
Always.
And is it safe to say that while you were growing up in early days in Madurai, when you were forced to learn Hindi and Tamil and physics and all of that, you think it actually led you to being able to read people of different cultures, different backgrounds,
Madras,
perspectives?
growing up in Madras. Yes, of course. Yes, of course. I think working with uh, my first job being a job in a bookshop. I think books anyway are a rarefied space if you're a bookseller.
Yeah.
You deal with a different bunch of people, but working in a bookshop or constantly meeting different kinds of people all the time. The enormous wisdom of my parents growing up in Chennai, but putting us through Hindi as a compulsory second language, so we actually learn a different culture. All of that have gone a long way in being open to understand. I think readers are different from non-readers. The more you read more books where you understand that the world beyond, both imagined and factual, where you've lived vicariously other people's lives, understood other people's predicaments, other characters, failures and successes, love or loss, you become more open as a human being to other human beings around you.
I will give you that. And I think before I go on to my next question, because you did actually softly touch upon my next question a little bit, but I just wanted to insert here. I have a feeling that this is something I've learned from you, and I have only recently become an avid reader. Like an avid means like I'm reading like four books a week. I think I've turned into a little bit of a obsessive reader, which I'm really enjoying and I'm not regretting. I think I'm just making up for lost time. But I think the one thing I've realized, having met you briefly, is being able to give people the space and the respect to read them like a whole new book. I think you're not even like, when you and I sort of sat down, I thought you gave me that room to be just myself. And I thought that was just so comforting and so like, it's just so easy to be around you because it's not coming with, I have read this, so maybe this is going to look like this. I think you've read me like a brand new book. And so you allow me to write my own chapters, pages, grow, and make that time and space to become something, as opposed to bringing a lot of already like baggage or whatever. I thought that was really refreshing about you and kind, of course. So that was one. Um, but in your opinion, are there, like you said, great leadership, allowing to have conversations, speaking truth, guiding people? Of course, takes a lot of self awareness as well, because a lot of people I don't even think uh, arrive at that space or are not at the same wavelength, or we misread each other, or all of that. So keeping all those things in mind, what are, I think, some of the more basic simple acts of kindness that you think we can incorporate or have forgotten to incorporate in our daily lives, because you've actually gone from print reading to now this digital crazy world that we're living in, which is a good world also, but what is there anything that you think we're missing out?
No, no, we're not. I say horses for courses. Uh, we are not. What we are missing out maybe is that we are looking at. We are spending a lot more time in anonymous interaction
Yeah.
with people we might never, including me. I spend a lot of time on digital devices too, and in platforms that are not reading platforms. I'm watching a lot more than I'm reading, I must admit. Uh, if it's possible. It's not. I'm just saying, I think I'm watching
Oh,
relatively, relatively. But the point is this, that I think we, for some, I know it's obviously scientifically concocted, dopamine for you to be
yeah.
doing. But I think we are all doing a lot more anonymous interactions, even if human, than we are with so I think it's a need. We are slowly developing or have developed this instinct to have instant, for lack of a better way and a much used word, gratification. So
Yeah.
we are happy when we are happy with to laugh at banal humor.
Yeah.
I don't know what it does the long term for us, by the way.
Yeah.
It's just that the world is now full of, even any brand advertising has just resorted to the lowest common denominator way of making you laugh. Creativity notwithstanding. I mean, Indian TikTok or Indian Reels are just astonishingly creative.
Yeah.
But what we have done is we just shifted to that direction where you go to an average airport, and if six people have their phones open, at least three of them are laughing at some, because you can hear the jingle that goes with it, right? You know that that's what they're all doing.
Yeah.
Uh, and we really are not interacting with people at all. Uh, you might be in somebody's way, you might not. So the more we are pulling away from both ourselves and humans around us, and the more we have our head inside this anonymous interaction with the world. That's not to say please watch dogs and animals all day on your phones.
Yeah.
That's a different universe. But we are moving away from human interaction, and not in a necessarily good way.
Thank you. Thank you for putting that out. I'm very glad that you've said it, because I genuinely think that it's different to meet someone in person and have their energy, and it says a lot, right? Like energies speak volumes, or like how someone's day has been. Just sitting across someone, you can probably, if you're intuitive enough, I'm sure all of us are. But I think, yeah, like not having people around and replacing them with phones is probably
Yes.
not
And it
kind.
happens even in a post-COVID world. I mean, I think when we were all working from home during the pandemic, there was a certain bit of courtesy to find out how we are all doing.
Yeah.
Since we are back, and a lot more meetings are now digital or stuff like this, or half in, half out, hybrid. The thing that we are all conscious of is that we only meet to talk about something.
Yeah.
We set up a meeting with a purpose or a subject line. When was the last time you sent a meeting request with no subject line?
I have an answer to that, but anyway, who's with
Yeah.
you?
Yes. So, but I know this was coming. I was saying that, when did we last do that?
Yeah.
We don't do that. We don't even for a moment ask ourselves, how are you doing?
Yeah.
We don't start an email with how are you anymore. Yes,
Yeah.
you don't. So we just go jump straight in.
Yeah.
And nowadays, when you pick the phone, people are not even saying hello. They're just like, that thing or this thing or this guy said this and so on and so forth. You're almost anticipating that the world around you or your immediate set of colleagues around you are in line, in tow line with you on the particular predicament at the same time. I think we're also losing courtesy to kind of
That is true. That is
just
true.
ease in or whatever. No, I'm saying professional requirements notwithstanding.
Yeah.
That's not to say you can't stop to say, how are you?
Yeah.
People
And
do that.
actually wait to have people respond to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Some people still do that
Yeah.
because we also often forget that who we are outside the office significantly impacts who we are inside the office.
Yeah.
And it makes a big difference to even just sit back and say, even let's say you missed a bus
Yeah.
and then you missed your metro connection and then you're coming into office grumpy. I think the office environment should be uh, aware that you could have had a bad morning walking into work and therefore not jump on you at the moment
Yeah.
or just ask, you know.
Yeah.
So the word I like to use often, but sometimes I do, sometimes I don't get the opportunity, is pause.
Yes.
I think we all need to pause as often as we can and
Yeah.
put ourselves slightly above the process or the purpose. Because if you're in a good state of mind, everything else will fall into place.
No, I love that. Thank you for this because I think it's become almost natural for all of us to force all of us around ourselves to stay in flight or fight mode. Because it's like, oh my God, you've got one life to live and you only do this once. And the other really common factor that I think I've also sort of picked up recently, especially like you mentioned post COVID, I think it's become transactional to be kind, which is what I think my next question was going to be. People are almost sensing like what is going, why do you need to know how I'm doing, or get to the point, like what it's true, right? Like
Is there a you
is there a
started you
catch?
started noticing, is there an ulterior motive to this
Yeah.
question? Kya chahiye
Yeah.
batao kind of situation.
Ha, like get to the point. Why did you ask? Why do you
Yeah.
need to know? I
No,
think
no,
that
no.
sort of
I was reading something recently. The distinction is that is the person being nice or is the person kind.
yes.
You
And
can attribute motives to people who are nice. At the
yeah,
first instance, I think they want to be nice because they want to be loved. Maybe I'm just conjecturing here. Don't get me wrong.
love it. Yeah.
I'm very small on the Maslow pyramid level, but I think people who are kind are generally kind.
Yeah. And we're beginning to blur those lines.
So I'll give you a simple example. We all drive into work and drive out of work, drive through buildings, drive through spaces. Notice the people who would stop for those waiting to cross the road, and notice the people who don't and who honk. I mean, you're sitting inside an air-conditioned car, and the four people standing out in the heat and the element. The least you can do is pause so they cross the road.
Yeah.
There's a distinction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, you might be a very nice guy, but you don't notice that you have to be kind to notice that somebody else would might want to get out of the sun faster than you do.
Yeah.
But that's the distinction. That's what I kind of see. If it's, are you nice or are you kind?
Yeah. And thank you for pointing that out. No, I think it's true. I've also noticed even in a professional setup, say for example, if someone's not at the highest levels, but they're doing really well and they've had a small win, and it probably is not a win that you would probably call success. But I think people aren't even clapping enough, or just they'll just be like, how did he do this? Like it's just that, like I think there's something's missing. And so I wanted to ask you, since you've been in a position of helping people at the start of your career to continue doing that in a much larger role, and you're now leading teams, I wanted to ask you, because you've pointed out niceness and kindness, do you think kindness is a one-way street, or do you think kindness is actually helping people with their own well-beings and happiness, and it becomes a two-way street if it's practiced intently? Like, I'm not saying
It always, it'll always come back to you. It's
how.
human nature to, even subconsciously, if you have been the recipient of a random act of kindness, guaranteed some cells in you change. You will pay it back. You will pay. You can see that in, okay, I'll give you another. This happened to me live, right?
Yeah.
I'm standing in line at a security line in an airport in Bombay. 3 or 4 spaces in front of me, that guy forgot his phone, that his phone was in pocket. So the security guard naturally sent him back. Now
Yeah.
he had to go back to the line 10 people behind. four people in front of me saw that he was in my head, right? So when the guy came back, I asked him to come and stand in front of me because it's rightful for him to go ahead of me. I was not in a hurry anyway. It happened 2 days later. It happened to me in another airport. It happened to me in another airport because the guy asked me to take my shoes off, and some other man I've never met in my life offered me that position as I came back after I put my shoe on the. So either the universe did it for me, but I remembered. I still talk about it. And it's not like when I passed on kindness that I was expecting for it to come back. But
Yeah.
when it happens to you, you remember that it is good to do something like that.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
think it's little things. It's the little things we notice around us that makes a big difference. As often as you can. For,
Pause.
for that, you should have your head out of your mobile phone when you're standing anywhere,
Yeah.
so you can see the world around you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm really glad that we're actually speaking about these things that we're beginning to take for granted. And yeah, like we're definitely in different roles at life and different genders as well. But I'm in complete sync. I also wanted to sort of add to this. And again, like it's almost like you're preempting my questions. But I also think, safe for you to answer, what is the role you think kindness plays in fostering a sense of community or a connection, especially in this interconnected, interpersonal world that we're living in?
Kindness will never go out of fashion. How can it? Whether wherever from every moment, from even within your home, to anticipating what people around you want. They say that, uh, well, they say both things, but it's often wrong to assume that the greatest of relationships survive not because you remember what each of you like, because likes can change. The greatest relationships survive if you remember what annoys the other and doing less of it. So even at home, if you don't shouldn't be leaving your towel on the floor, don't. That's an act of kindness, right? Because it just what you do is that when you do something that annoys somebody else, wherever you are, and if you're aware that is that somebody is annoyed, then you're making their moment a little less anxious or frantic. So it is the little things. It's where you park. I'm not going into whether our cities and roads are clean or not, and how you dump garbage or not, and what you do. It's just that, yeah, nothing in the world is more important than being kind to each other. I think we only have one planet.
Yeah.
As much as there are people talking about multi-planetary existences, the world has taught us time and long, this is the geography we have, this is the space we have. The more we are conscious of that, don't yell at that waiter who brought your food late.
Yes, please. Can you say that again?
I mean, it's fine. We don't know, so everything, and don't yell at people who can't talk back, or don't yell at people just because you have a designation, or you're more powerful if you have lesser and lesser reasons to execute that power.
I think just don't yell, period. Learn how to communicate better. Just please don't yell. Just,
Yes, yes, something like that. So I think all of us can do. I think all of us know it.
yeah.
I think all of us do it. I think if we were selfish and selfishness meant that I am expecting kindness and therefore I'm going to be kind, instead of selfishness meaning that I want to be treated in a certain way, both are completely different sentences. If we all did that, it will show. How can it
Yeah.
not?
So consider each other a lot more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Kindness is about consideration. Kindness is about being aware of the other.
I'm getting like pearls of wisdom or books actually. Yeah. Well, lots of books in all your answers.
Never
But
say that to a publisher who publishes some of the greatest minds in the world.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is a
So
job.
I'm
No.
just like, I don't even need to keep saying he's CEO. I don't even need to introduce you again and again. No, but as in your role, then in your role, and like we're talking about, a lot of self-proclaimed content is now coming out. People who are not even, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Please don't judge me on it. But I'm saying like there's a lot of content that is information that is coming out, and then there's knowledge that gets missed between that, and then of course wisdom doesn't even get to be translated out of that knowledge or information because it's almost like we don't even give ourselves the time to pause and reflect, absorb and observe. All of that is just missing because we'd rather respond before we even consume something. Within the world that you're in, and you know that text is it lasts forever, whether it's print or whether it's digital, and it's hard to undo, rewrite all of that, uh, particularly in this day and age. what are you most afraid of, or what are you most conscious of, given the amount of content and how it changes lives? Text can change lives.
Misinformation,
Yeah.
half thought out ideas. I think there is no alternative to experience. I'm not even using the word wisdom. There is no alternative. There is no alternative to experience at all. So I do worry, for example, on a platform like LinkedIn, the number of people who write life experience stories, and then you're like, hang on, you've been around the sun 14 times, and then what? So you think about it twice. You think about the impact it might have, the wrong impact you might have on people when you are sharing information that is not tested, as it were. So I worry about misinformation a lot. I'm not talking in the political sense. So
Yeah, yeah.
you know fact from fake, and you know fact that is incorrect. But in the context that we are talking about, I worry about the amount of misinformation. And even more important, I think, is that we are not sharing the right information. So, I mean, you running this podcast, but I think how often do you bump into information that is about random acts of kindness? So I'll give you an example. I was in Los Angeles airport, and I didn't know it was going to be that manic and mental. Okay, so I got into the airport, allowing myself 2 hours on a flight to New York, and
Yes.
the whole world was in the airport. Okay, I
Yes.
had no idea. And I could have gone back to my friend's house and then changed my flight around, but I had to be in Manhattan, and I'm standing in queue. It was a major summer weekend, and there were like just droves of people. This was a surfing weekend, so a lot of people with surfboards waiting to check in. It was just complete big bags and golf players, and it was crazy. And here I am, all 5.5 foot of me with my rucksack, waiting in line to get in the. And I knew that I was not going to make the flight. But what you do in airport, you stand in line and you wait. You
Yeah.
can't really jump the queue, especially in a country where you don't know. It's not how it used to be. So I'm standing there at that moment, and this airline employee, he had a badge that said Mark. Mark walks up. He scans people, helping them stand in line. He's randomly checking, where are you going? Where are you going? Where are you going? Stops by me and saying, where are you headed? I said, I'm going to New York. So he says, you're not going to make the flight.
Lovely. Thanks.
Pulls me out of the queue, takes me to a counter, base of counter where there are 14 counters,
Yeah.
check-in counters, only 6 operational. Pulls me
Nice
out,
guy.
yeah,
Yeah.
pulls me to an empty counter, switches on the desk, checks me in, gives my boarding pass and says, off you go, and then disappears back into the crowd. There is no way that, you know, it could have happened if it's not a random act. No coincidence. He doesn't know me. I don't know him. He couldn't even pronounce my name in full, which had no choice in the making. It's just too long for anybody's use. But he does that and he goes away. I mean, absolutely. And these are things that people should know. You could do this to somebody else on a random day. You could help somebody, at the very least, climb a stair,
Yeah.
lift the bag off the baggage trolley. A lot of people struggle with heavy bags. We just stand around watching people struggle to get bags off conveyor belts, right? So little things.
Yeah.
And that's what should be shared. So going back to your question, use the time, use your power, ability, your internet reach, your digital reach to at least 10% of your time. Talk about the nice things, real nice things, and stay away from misinformation.
I like that. And I think I'm also going to summarize. I think my audience will probably also make out why then again you're on the podcast. But I think in your own answering that question, you have been able to help us differentiate between people who are writing on LinkedIn from their own personal experience. And I don't think it's uncommon for me to put out that there are a lot of people who will say, I did this and I went through this and I did this and I found a way out. And then, yeah, you could be a nice person, but clearly, I think the kind of people will talk about everything around them and not about themselves. And so they'll probably learn from somebody else and say, look, this happened to me because this person was doing. Yes, I think there's a very stark differentiation of wanting to stop talking about yourself because I think the world is larger. And it also sort of limits your own opinions on a very personal experience, which will never happen to anyone else ever again because everyone is living a different life. So, yeah,
Yeah,
like we're not going to be able to have a similar experience even if we want to, even if it's the best and you give us a whole secret sauce, it won't happen because The universe has different plans for all of us. So that is great. And now I'm going to quickly get into our faster round, which is our kindness quick starts round. It's a lot like rapid fire, and I do not like the rapid fire concept because it's just really like,
Exactly. How can you be kind super quick?
we'll see. You'll learn. We'll help you learn something new, and it'll be great. Now, are you ready for this?
I don't know what's coming.
You don't have an option. Not very kind on me, but we'll give it a shot. We can give you a little bit more, like extra 3 seconds if you need them. But all right. On your quick starts, what is the first word that comes to your mind when I say kindness?
Love.
Lovely. If kindness were a superpower, what would that superpower or super ability or special ability you would like for it to have for yourself?
Understand what my dog is saying.
Oh, that is adorable. That is lovely. If kindness were a color, what color would it be and why?
The color of sunlight, I think.
Why?
I think there's a certain energy when you see a bright yellow light.
Mhm. And if kindness were a sound, what sound would it make?
A bark.
It's going back to doggy. Lovely. If kindness were a food, what would it taste like? I need details, texture, flavors, everything.
So food and what you feel inside your mouth is personal. It could be a grain of sugar for some people.
Yeah.
It could be biting into a full fruit.
Yeah.
Uh, in Madras, it could be a biryani. Oh, but I think the all of the sensory aspects are intensely personal. So I would say whatever makes you feel good. It could be
So yours. You
standing
can,
on a cliff,
yeah.
with wind on your face. It could be on a beach when the spray hits your face. It could be a hug. So I don't think it's the food, but so I'm deviating. Long answer to a snappy question. Food is whatever makes you happy. I think if you close your eyes as soon as you bite into it, I think it's probably a very good thing.
So it's safe to say you love all kinds of food that is made with love. You're not picky. Is that where we're getting at with this one?
Yeah, I won't eat a Karela, but yeah.
Good. At least you know that. Would you rather have the ability to make someone instantly burst into laughter or choose between making them feel loved and cared for?
You have to be able to do both.
You have to choose.
In both instances, you have to make them feel good. I
Okay.
think when you laugh, subconsciously, I think you make them feel good as long as you have an ability to make somebody feel good and loved and appreciated. Yes, both.
So you're actually you're right. You're summarizing on the consideration part. Like you
Yeah,
consider.
because you can make somebody laugh by criticizing somebody else, by picking on somebody else, by roasting someone. That's not the kind of laugh I want to take back home thinking that, oh, I laughed and I know that somebody's pants are being pulled on, but I'd laugh that that's a different kind of laugh.
Yeah.
But if you're able to make them feel laugh really from their heart because you've not used others to create this humor, then it's another matter.
Lovely. Now, because you're into the writing space, if kindness were a book, whether it's been written, whether you'd wish for it to be written, whether you'd want to write one, if there is one, which one would you suggest, or what should the content look like? I'm seeing Gulzar right behind you. It's like speaking to me really loudly.
But it's a good, I mean, we all have our favorite books. We all have our comfort books, right? That you go back to reading. And, Salman Rushdie says it in one of the pieces I was reading that you all have only 26 alphabets to use if you're using the English language. So, and some of them say it really nicely, and some of them use it for purpose, and so on and so forth. So, if you use the definition of a good book, I think a good book can be a kind book because it makes you feel better. It makes you, engage with the world outside of you. You engage with the empathy of characters, live their lives, eat their food, walk their walk. I think a good book can be kind to you from your emotional well-being point of view.
Do you have one?
Many. In my job, I cannot pick one book. No, because I've read so many good books, and lots of books mean different things. I know friends and family who read their favorite books at least once a year.
Oh, yes, I'm one of those. Yes.
Yeah, a lot of people would say, "Oh, Jane Austen anytime," right?
Yeah. My
So,
dad, every week he's going to be watching the Seagulls, the Jonathan Livingston's The Seagull's Life. That one is.
I mean, yeah, Richard Bach. I mean, who didn't go through Richard Bach? Can you imagine? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so you can't pick that one book. Yeah, no, but I think yeah, as a publisher, you should say it's not been written yet, so that there are
No,
more.
not just as a not just a publisher, as a reader of books, as a reader
Yeah.
of books.
Yeah.
I know, for example, that the books that I'm yet to read is a list that's way larger than the books that I've read, right?
Wow, wow. And if I could actually borrow a day in your mind, and I don't even know which section I want to run to, so I'll probably have like a library sorted out for that. No, but given the fact that you're on my podcast and I'm the boss on my podcast and no one can actually question this, unfortunately, that's how it is. I'm going to be nominating you as the International Kindness Minister. And within that capacity, congratulations on your semi designation. If I nominate you as the International Kindness Minister, what day, month, or year, what time in the year would you pick? And what would you call it? And what are people allowed to do on this day of kindness across the world?
It can be any day. Acknowledge non-human beings. Be kind to an animal. Feed a dog, pet a dog, you know, help a cow move across the road if it's stuck in the middle. Go spend time with nature and wildlife. Be good to non-human beings. That's the first thing that I think we are able to show that you're thinking outside your species, as it were, but you're acknowledging that you're going to work with or be kind to a sentient being. So pick any day. Pick any day. Go to a
I love
dog.
that.
Go to a
Are we going
dog.
to call it anything?
You just called it International Kindness Day, right? I don't think there's one, is there?
No, there isn't. Which
See,
is why I'm constantly like,
can you imagine? We have every kind of day, and we don't have a kindness day, is it?
I think there is a kindness day that is celebrated by the UN in November. I think it's the 13th of November. But it's not something that we practice or is considered like a global
You
phenomenon.
should start a you should start a movement.
I'm really grateful that you have said it and have given me the license. As International Kindness Minister, his office must follow, and so that should be done. But I think it's really lovely that you mentioned that because, yes, I think people should tame their own animals in their head and start looking more outwards because it helps all of us at all levels.
Yeah, and that does not mean that you put you make it a corporate human resource exercise and you put a smiley on people's notice boards, for heaven's sake.
Yeah,
That's just be choose a day, and on that day you tell yourselves, today I'm going to be fully aware
yeah,
of every moment of where I walk, what I do, how I behave, and what is it that I can do for others to show that I'm being kind, not to be appreciated, just naturally be kind. Hold the
love.
door open, things like that. Little things. Just do the little things. It's good.
Love that. Anand, thank you so much. Unfortunately, we have reached the end of the podcast, but
Good.
before you leave, I'm very conscious of the energy you have put in, and I do not consciously intend to leave you depleted. This is your moment to either give me feedback or ask me a question so I can pour back in.
No, I only want to say thank you. I want to say thank you uh, for actually making the time in this world to talk about this. Impact notwithstanding, but you are talking to people, you're bringing people here, and we are also interacting with you or somebody who's just wanting to talk about kindness. I think that is so important. We've just discovered there's no kindness day, so actually maybe the needle has moved even slightly.
Yeah.
So I just want to end by saying thank you for doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate you and the work that you do. And I'm really grateful that we've been able to cross paths in this lifetime. I truly, truly am. I think you're, yeah, lovely. Thank you, Anand.
Thank you, Malika. Bye.